Culture today is infecting everything with sameness. Film, radio, and magazines form a system. Each branch of culture is unanimous within itself, and all are unanimous together. Even the aesthetic manifestations of political opposites proclaim the same inflexible rhythm. The claim that culture has been consumed by sameness raises a provocative question.
Is culture in any meaningful sense dying?
According to Max Horkheimer and Theodor Adorno, authors of The Dialectic of Enlightenment, we are well on our way to the death of culture. The book was published in 1947, but their points feel even more relevant today.
Dialectic of Enlightenment explores the state of society during the Second World War, especially how Enlightenment, with its science and humanism, could still lead to the horrors of fascism, Stalinism, and mass consumerism.
In this video, we'll look at the role of culture in this development, and how the authors believed Enlightenment culture was doomed, and how they may have been right.
Horkheimer and Adorno see a fundamental problem in the very concept of an industry of culture.
When culture becomes an industry, creativity dies, they state. Quantity is then valued over quality, and products are judged only on how well they attract and keep attention, or be monetarily viable, able to make money.
Even though different large companies create cultural content, the authors argue that this diversity is in fact fake.
They state that it mirrors, for example, the difference between the models of Chrysler cars and General Motors, which is fundamentally illusory. The advantages and disadvantages of the two serve only to perpetuate the appearance of competition and choice.
Now, with two different brands of cars, the difference between the two models might still be quite clear to you. But when we look at social media companies like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube all pushing short-form content slop, the problem suddenly becomes very clear.
Horkheimer and Adorno also state that the culture industry removes genuine creativity and variety. Any trace of spontaneity in the audience of the official radio is steered and absorbed into a selection of specializations by talent spotters, performance competition, and sponsored events of any kind.
Even our moments of discovery or spontaneous interest are still manufactured from above. Through its control over culture, the industry shapes what we deem normal and acceptable.
The whole world is passed through the filter of the culture industry. This shaping of what is normal also determines what forms of culture are seen as legitimate or viable.
And to back up this point of view, they quote Tocqueville to illustrate a new form of soft coercion.
The ruler no longer says, either you think as I do or you die. He says, you are free not to think as I do, your life, your property, and that you shall keep. But from this day on you will be a stranger among us.
In other words, you're free to choose, but you'll be excluded. You'll be a social outcast if you don't conform.
At the same time, the culture industry reinforces the idea that quantitative success is the only valid goal. High views, likes, and engagement. If financial survival requires following these trends, and if financial gain is the ultimate measurement, then creators really have no choice but to follow the same formulas.
And who doesn't, Horkheimer and Adorno say,
is condemned to an economic impotency. Disconnected from the mainstream, he is easily convicted of inadequacy.
So not only does the person who does not conform to the norms of the industry become broke, he will also be seen as inadequate.
As a result, the industry aims only to capture and retain attention, empty of meaning or genuine variety. The culture industry. Its element is repetition and their ideology is business.
The result of this is that producers no longer produce what they want, but what they think will perform best.
What they take to be their most effective idea.
The Dialectic of Enlightenment was written in the Second World War. Today, however, the message of this chapter has only become more relevant and more urgent.
Social media platforms function like battlegrounds, where content survives or dies based on metrics like watch time or click-through rate. Mr. Beast, often seen as the king of YouTube, openly describes how his team optimizes every video, second by second, for these specific numbers.
Quality becomes irrelevant and success is only measured by statistics and financial return. Nowadays, this way of thinking is portrayed in all kinds of culture, from videos to streams to children's content. I mean, we are on our way to Fast and Furious 12.
The worst example might be content aimed at children. Chaotic videos designed only to lock children's attention in and extract maximum profit, often strung together in non-stop live streams of short clips.
And the irony is that if social media platforms like TikTok or Instagram were to disappear, a lot of people might barely notice.
They're becoming so interchangeable that we would simply shift our attention elsewhere.
It's even worse. I'm willing to bet that if they all disappeared from our planet, our lives would probably improve.
Horkheimer and Adorno already predicted this. If the majority of radio stations and cinemas were shut down, consumers probably would not feel too much deprived. Once the use of these institutions was no longer made obligatory by their mere existence, the urge to use them might not be so overwhelming.
So, what can we do about this? Horkheimer and Adorno weren't very optimistic, but that does not mean we're powerless.
We can rebel by touching grass in multiple ways. If you have the time, try to create something not designed to sell. Write, paint, read or think. Watch an obscure film or tackle a difficult classic book. Or step away from the culture industry entirely and literally touch grass with some friends, without any manufactured entertainment involved. Listen to music outside of your comfort zone. Above all, reject the idea that quality equals bigger numbers, more money, more views, more clicks. Quality is something you experience, not something you measure.
And if possible, do these things together with other people. Create something that is not made for the pursuit of some quantitative thing, of likes, of monetary value. Just experience together. Now, if you agree with this, disagree, or you have any other comments, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching.